Hey Amarillo, I'm Skylar Gallup and you're listening to Hey Amarillo, the interview podcast featuring some of the most interesting people and stories of Amarillo, Texas. We record every week at Amarillo College's Innovation Outpost. The I.O. supports education, workforce development, and industry growth by inspiring and facilitating innovation in the Texas Panhandle. Today's guest is Michael Kashuba. But listeners, before we get into his story, I do want to acknowledge some audio challenges I had with this recording. The technology gremlins come for us all, and they got me on this one. But Michael's story is an interesting and valuable one nonetheless. So just a heads up, you may need to turn up your car speakers a little bit or your earbuds, however you listen to our podcast, but you should be just fine and good to go after that. My apologies and lessons learned. Thank you for understanding. Okay, Michael is the director of the City of Amarillo's Parks and Recreation Department. He also, though, brings a pretty cool perspective to the show because Michael grew up in British Columbia, Canada. We talk about the differences and surprising similarities between the two, as well as what motivates his work in the Parks and Rec Department in our city. What's going great, and there is plenty of that, and what makes his work tough. Here's Michael. Michael Kashuba, welcome to the Hey Amarillo podcast.
Thank you for having me on.
Thanks for being here. I'm looking forward to the conversation today. I'd like to start by asking what your origin story is to Amarillo. And I know that yours is not originally from Amarillo, so really excited to start with that.
Yeah, so it's a little bit longer story. My wife and I, when we first got married, obviously like most newlyweds, didn't have a lot of resources. And so we got very comfortable traveling to state parks, going and seeing what the state had to offer in terms of camping opportunities. And we used to love coming up to Paladero Canyon and hiking and camping there. Spent a lot of time there. And in fact, we actually named our son Canyon after the state park, never thinking that we would live here. And so spent a lot of time in the Metroplex. The opportunity opened up in Amarillo, and we've been looking for a place that was a little bit smaller, family friendly, didn't have the commute that the Metroplex did, and so Amarillo checked a lot of those boxes, and so we decided to move our family up here about 7 years ago, and we've been extremely happy with that decision.
That's nice that you named your kiddo after Canyon. I love the Canyon and spend a lot of time there too. So you and your wife met at DFW?
So we actually met at college. So I am a Canadian by birth.
I was waiting until you were gonna. If you didn't, I was going to.
Yeah. So I was born in Canada. Grew up there all through high school. My senior year of high school, I played for Junior Team Canada. I was drafted by the Seattle Mariners, and so I had the opportunity.
What sport is that, Michael?
Baseball.
Okay, thank you.
So I had the opportunity to choose between going and playing in the minor leagues or going to college. And my parents and I sat down and kind of looked at all the different options and decided that the college route was probably the best opportunity. One of my friends had been sending out letters all over the country trying to get opportunities to go play baseball, and lo and behold, he got an email back from Vernon, Texas that said, "Hey, we'd love you to come down and play baseball. Do you know anybody?" And so I've been getting offers from different schools, but my parents thought it was best for me to go with a friend. So we moved from Vernon, British Columbia to Vernon, Texas.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, and played baseball there for 2 years. That's where I met my wife. And then after that, I finished my baseball career at Dallas Baptist, which is one of the best baseball schools in the state.
Nice.
Absolutely loved it. And then got married and kind of put down roots in the Metroplex.
Wonderful. Okay, so I want to know more about Michael, the young Canadian baseball player.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about growing up in British Columbia.
Loved it. It was a lot of fun. We got to travel a lot my senior year, so most times when you're playing baseball in Canada, you kind of stay there.
Okay.
My senior year, we actually did a lot of traveling. We went down to Arizona, played quite a few games there. Went down to California, played some games there. When I was trying out for Team Canada, we were all over the northeast part of the country, so up in Michigan, and got to do quite a bit of traveling. So really enjoyed it. You know, I love it up there. My family is all still there. I'm the only one that has moved south. My brother, one of my younger brothers, actually moved away for a little while, but then moved back to Canada. He went and played professional baseball in Austria for a couple of years.
Oh, neat.
So, yeah, it was great. We loved it there.
This is a huge stereotype, and I recognize it. But so you're not just supposed to play hockey?
Well, you do. You play hockey, but then, what else do you do with the rest of the year, which is like 3 months? So we would play hockey in the winter and fall, and then we would play baseball basically over the summer, because it takes a while for everything to unthaw. And so, you start playing baseball April, May, and then you kind of play through summer and then a little bit into the fall. So, played hockey, loved it, but baseball was really my heart.
Yeah, it's what stuck, huh?
Yeah.
Nice. I absolutely love this place, and I think that it is beautiful in kind of its own, like, expansive, lonely, like, lovely beauty. But certainly a different beauty from Canada. I've been once, but I, it's got this amazing reputation of just being spectacular. Do you miss that?
Yeah, I mean, we were blessed to live about an hour and a half from the Rockies.
Oh gosh!
And so we were kind of in the foothills of the Rockies. Absolutely beautiful country. But each place is a little bit different, and I like open spaces.
Mm-hmm.
I like being able to see sunsets. I like to see the open prairies. So Amarillo checks that box.
Yeah.
Even though I love the mountains, I love the forest. I also love wide open spaces.
Yeah. How far into Canada is Vernon?
Yeah. So we're the majority of the Canadian population. I think 90% is within 3 hours of the border.
Okay.
So we were right around that 3 hours from the border. We're about 6 hours due north of Spokane, Washington.
Okay.
There's actually a little desert that extends up into Canada. We were on the north end of it. So in the summer, we would actually get a little bit warmer weather than most places in the country. So we would hit 100 for a week, 2 weeks, and we wouldn't get quite as cold as the rest of the country. So it was kind of the perfect place to live.
Nice. Okay, so now I'm thinking about, of course, Canadians are known to be the friendliest people. I know you, and I think that you're quite friendly. But one of the things that they say about Amarilloans is that we are very, very friendly. So who wins?
I think both.
Okay.
I think both are very, very friendly and very welcoming. When we moved here 7 years ago, there was a lot of really great people in Amarillo, and I think that's one of the things that is the charm here. Is it's very family friendly. There's a lot of people that really care deeply about those in the community, and so it was a nice tie. Whereas opposed to the Metroplex, where it's just busy, it's not as personal, and so that's been a nice touch.
Yeah, that would be kind of a nice familiarity, especially because it's friendliness, which is always lovely.
Exactly.
What's very different?
Obviously, the geography from Canada to here. The Metroplex, I was actually commuting a lot, and so I have a little bit of a commute, but it's not like it was in the Metroplex. There was one day it snowed, and it took 6 hours to get home.
Oh, so, bless.
I think obviously the traffic there is much different. We complain about the orange cones, which is a challenge, but it's not sitting in traffic for hours at a time. So that's a nice plus.
So you're Director of Parks and Rec here. Were you working in municipal services in the Metroplex?
Yeah, so the way I got into all of this, actually, we first got married. We were looking for opportunities for, obviously, employment, and I found a job working at a golf course for the City of Arlington. So I started mowing golf courses. And
Are you a golfer?
No.
No, okay, cool. But you're a lawnmower, though.
Yeah, I can mow. So I went and started working there, and they had a tuition reimbursement program, and identified the landscape architecture program at the University of Texas at Arlington was something I was interested in. I had previously had a bachelor degree in biology, and so it was kind of a natural transition into landscape architecture. So started going to school, working full-time, going to school full-time. Ended up graduating from the landscape architecture program, became a registered landscape architect in the state. Started working on the private side, so went to work for a couple landscape architecture firms, civil engineering firms, and really started working with municipal clients, working on more of the design side. So trying to take their vision and put it into a design and build it out. And then there was a point where I realized that I hadn't put enough into retirement, and so started looking at opportunities to kind of grow. And the town of Addison had a landscape architect position open, And so I went and applied for the position and thankfully got the position. Little did I know that within 2 weeks, my boss at the time would tell me that he was planning to retire in 3 years and that I was his replacement.
There you go.
And so I had the opportunity to walk in on the landscape architecture side of things, reviewing plans, helping to beautify the city, looking at development codes, really was exposed to a lot of different development opportunities and the process through Addison. So obviously had the opportunity to grow naturally from a landscape architect into the assistant director position, and then when he retired, moving into the director position. So very, very different community. The daytime population is 150,000. It's a lot of corporate residents. It's Mary Kay, it's USAA. 4.3 square miles, a full square mile was the airport. So really about 3 square miles of community as opposed to 100 here.
Yeah.
And so we got the opportunity to work on a lot of cool projects, a lot of really big special events. Addison was known for their big special events, whether it's Kaboom Town, Oktoberfest, Taste of Addison. And so really got exposed to, again, the development side, but then also more of the programming special event side, all while working on trying to beautify the community. So it was a great opportunity, great community, and a great place to work.
Is that what you thought you were going to do with your biology degree?
No, I actually thought I was initially looking at pre-med, going into being a doctor.
Interesting.
But then I had also looked at going back into the forestry side of things, moving back to Canada. Staying in Texas obviously shifted and looked more at landscape architecture. And my family had been farmers in Canada, so the agricultural side of things, growing things, designing things, just kind of came naturally. Loved to spend time in the garden, growing and doing other things out there.
What did they grow in Canada?
They had wheat, they had canola, they had all the big crops. And so my grandparents actually started as dairy farmers. My uncle who took over the farm was not an early bird, so he sold the dairy farm and started doing just regular farming and some ranching.
Interesting. And so what brought about the move to Amarillo? Was it a job opening or?
Yeah, so it was obviously the opportunity to move to Amarillo. Again, it was a big enough city that we could get a lot of the amenities, but it was small enough where, again, I could go and participate in my kids' activities.
Yeah.
When I was in Addison, I was driving an hour and a half off peak times to get to work.
Yeah.
And so I didn't get to go to kids' activities at school, didn't get to go and enjoy that. So really was a decision for the family to kind of slow the pace down just a little bit.
That commute stuff is brutal.
It is very unpredictable, and
Yeah.
I mean, you could have a trip that you would expect to be an hour, and it could end up being 2-3 hours.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
It makes you not mind those orange cones.
Exactly. Exactly.
So how long is the job that you took here, director, or did you work your way up? Okay.
Yep. So I moved and was obviously applied for the job here. It's a much bigger scope, so a lot of people don't recognize or realize how big Amarillo Parks is. We've got 10 different divisions, everything from aquatics to the pools to the zoo, senior services, park maintenance, golf, tennis. I mean, we've got the full spectrum. And so I think when a lot of people think parks, they think park maintenance as kind of the primary function, but really we've got a lot of different elements going on at any given time.
Yeah, so I came onto the board, I'm on the Parks and Rec board. I came on, 2 years ago-ish? And I had that exact same experience. And I'm a pretty engaged community member. I'm also a really outdoorsy person. I would have thought that I had a better idea and walked in and was so pleasantly surprised by the breadth of services that you wouldn't think, maybe even if you know that our city provides them, lives under Parks and Rec. And it is much more than, taking care of the trees at John Stiff.
Yeah.
So take a minute, if you will, and talk about kind of what you've seen in the services that Parks and Rec just provides our city.
Yeah, so I think we've made a significant shift. Our recreation program was at one point just a summer program, and we've really converted that into a year-round program. So you've got opportunities to have special events, you've got programs, you've got camps. So we've really kind of expanded the offering. I think one of the things that the department did not do maybe as well in the past was storytell. tell what we did and what the benefit is to the community. We are here to provide quality of life. And we want to make sure that there's those opportunities for people to go and enjoy not only the park space, but also other programs where people can have fellowship, they can socialize, they can get to know their neighbor a little bit more. So we started trying to take some of our programming. Obviously, we've got things like Starlight Theater that are at Sam Houston, but we've also started doing pop-up parties in the park. So taking parties to smaller parks so that the community can kind of engage and get to know each other, but also have some fun and it's recreation. So we've really tried to meet the needs of the community that maybe weren't being met the same way in the past. And so extremely proud of our team. And one of the stories I like to tell is one of our assistant directors moved here recently from Chicago, and she had told somebody that she worked for Parks and Rec. And the person's response was, "We have a Parks and Rec department." So I think it was a program that was fairly small, wasn't communicated as well to the public, and so I think our goal is to try to make sure that not only are we promoting what we do, but also getting feedback from the community on programs that they would like to see, things that maybe we haven't historically offered. We've started doing some camping programs, some kayaking programs. Our Hooked on Fishing camp is always extremely popular. It sells up or fills up almost immediately. And so we just want to continue to provide programs that the community wants and needs.
And what do you think is the benefit of the work that you and your team do in our city?
Well, I think first and foremost, it gets people outdoors. We got a lot of kids that like to play video games, which is not a bad thing. But I think being outside, it helps to engage people. When you sit outside and you get to see nature, it really is a lot more calming. So I think being out in nature is great, but I think there's also the social elements, getting to meet new people, naturally, and not just being forced into those relationships. So I think parks is a great just mediator and a natural place for people to meet and kind of congregate. So, and one of the things I would say is, we saw very early that our community loves social events. They love special events. We know that there's portions of our community that, quite frankly, their yards aren't big enough to have big family reunions, and so our parks are an extension of their home and an extension of their yard. And so we want to make sure that we're providing a great place for people to host family reunions, to gather as large groups. And I think that's why a lot of those parks are significantly used, I think more than what most people would recognize. And so we want to be that place for community building.
You talked about making relationships, and my mind immediately went to the senior services that you guys provide. Talk about that, because I've been really thankful to get to sit in board meetings and listen to the people that are providing those services, and the numbers of our neighbors that are taking advantage of some really cool stuff.
Yeah, so a few years ago, pre-COVID, we had done a project called the Neighbor Hub, which was supposed to be kind of a repository or a database where people could go look for information on aging, on doctors, on medical stuff, on programs, just everything that maybe a caregiver, a child, or an active adult may want to be interested in related to kind of our active seniors. One of the things we saw is after COVID, I think there was a lot of social isolation, and so we've kind of shifted our model away from fully an online model to more of trying to engage people where they're at. So a couple of years ago at the Warford Activity Center, we had a little bit of salary savings, and with the blessing from the city manager's office, we went in and spent $50,000 to renovate 2 classrooms into basically a senior area at the Warford Activity Center. We had some individuals that donated flooring, and they're trying to do that, and staff was out there painting, and so we were able to kind of convert a couple of unused classrooms into a space that seniors could use on a daily basis. And so whether it's playing dominoes, whether it's just sitting and talking, that space has become kind of a hub for our senior population. One of the great things is we've got the opportunity through programs like Medicare Source Sneakers, where people can get a free membership to the facility. So if they qualify under their medical program, they can get free access to those facilities. And so whether it's the Tennis Center or Warford, we would encourage people to look into that, because we want to serve our population and our community. So But the senior center, or the senior area at Warford has really grown. We've started serving some lunches, and so we've again starting to meet needs in a little bit different way than we had in the past. But we continue to see our water aerobics programs growing. We do some cornhole tournaments. We start to see those growing, and so we're seeing more and more new faces, and the number of check-ins continues to grow. So we know that there's an unmet need there, and we just continue to try to find ways that we can meet it with the resources we have.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of conversation right now about people being lonely, and really oftentimes that's our elderly population. And so I guess I just really appreciate seeing a governmental entity really like approaching that with intentionality and meeting the needs. I mean, that's like your job, but you're like doing it very well, that I think a lot of people might not assume if you didn't know, that you guys are doing a whole lot more than, mowing our green spaces.
Exactly. And again, I think, we've got a lot of opportunities for people to go on our website, our Facebook page. We try to do a lot of promotion so people can kind of see what's going on. But we would encourage you, check it out, because, and again, if there's programs that you're interested in that maybe we haven't historically offered, reach out to our staff. We're always looking at ways to, again, meet the needs of our community. And again, things like camping, which, we kind of take for granted sometimes that everybody's been camping. Well, not everybody's been camping. And so we've done a few camping experiences where people get to go camp at Southeast Park overnight, get to learn how to cook, enjoy a movie, get to camp. The city has some camping equipment, so we allow people to use that. So again, it's just looking at what the needs are and trying to figure out how we can use our resources to help meet those needs.
And even in that, I think it would be easy to make a lot of assumptions about the services that the entire city wants or needs or can access. So when you're thinking about how you're providing services, what services you're providing, where you're providing them, as the director of the department, how does that calculation sit with you?
Yeah, so obviously we want to serve our entire community. Our goal is to provide programs all over town. And so what we do is we typically will start with like a pilot program, or we'll try a program or an activity, see what kind of feedback we get from the community or attendance, and then we kind of adjust it from there. So if we do an event in a neighborhood park in a certain part of town, and we get 5 people show up, in another area we get 200 people show up, and then obviously we want to allocate those resources appropriately. But that doesn't mean we give up on that other area. We're going to continue to try different programs, activities, because maybe that program just doesn't resonate with that neighborhood or that community. So looking at maybe different non-traditional programs. I think that was one of the things that we found when we did the master plan was not every park needs to be the same. They don't all need just a playground, a tennis court. We need to look at what the needs of the community are. And when we engage with like the East Ridge community, we heard CPAC to crawl, which is kung fu volleyball. You kick it with your feet.
What?
Yeah, so it's
what is it?
CPAC to crawl. It's volleyball using your feet. It's unbelievable.
How cool!
The most athletic people I think I've ever
seen.
But again, it's trying to get feedback. So we're working on a park master plan for the East Ridge community, and we want it to be reflective of the culture. We want it to be reflective of the sense of place and the people that live in that community. And so again, we want that feedback. We want the dialogue. When we did our parks master plan, we had over 10,000 people give us feedback. We want to hear from the community. We don't want to just operate in a bubble by ourselves. We want to be good stewards of the taxpayer dollars, and we want the community to help drive where those resources go. So again, we're going to try different programs, and I keep telling my staff, try it. If it doesn't work, then we look at something else. And so you'll see a lot of unique programs. I know we've got a Blue Play Date coming up soon. We're actually getting ready for our we started it last year, but we're going to call it Pirates in the Park this year. It's basically a hot air balloon trick-or-treating event around Halloween. So at John Stiff, we're going to have we're partnering with a hot air balloon group to do some glows in the park, and we'll be having kids trick-or-treat from hot air balloon to hot air balloon. So,
oh my gosh, how fun!
Yeah, so we obviously did the 5th of July this year. This will be our next one, is Pirates in the Park, and so obviously we'd encourage people to keep an eye out for that. But again, it's trying to find ways that we can engage the community, get them together, and just continue to build on that.
Yeah, I took my kids randomly to one of the mom and son Nerf gun wars up at Warford, and it was an absolute blast. Like I would go to Synergy and pay, and I love Synergy. I'm not knocking Synergy, but it's a lot less money.
Yeah.
So free is great.
Yeah.
But I was so surprised at how much fun we had, how well organized it was. I mean, the whole gym had like all of these obstacles, and it was like glow in the dark. And if you don't know that the Parks and Rec department is putting on that programming, you're really missing out.
Yeah, and like I said, we've got a great staff.
Yeah, for sure.
Very creative and has really started to think outside the box in terms of what those programs look like. And things like the Lego camps, the Nerf gun wars. They're constantly looking at, again, new ways to engage the community. So again, I would check our Facebook page. We try to keep it as up to date as possible. We try to promote all the new things that are happening, all the new programs. Some of them have registration, some of them are just free to attend.
Yeah.
And so we would encourage people to get out on there and check out the Facebook page, because I think you'd be surprised at the offerings that we have and just the volume of them as well.
So what's hard about your job?
I think obviously there's a lot of really, really positive things. And the challenge is, I think, generally speaking, is we've got a lot of aging assets, and that's something that we kind of communicated through the Parks Master Plan process is when we had initially done the asset management plan, it stated that the department had about $100 million in assets, and about half were in either a failed state or about to be a failed state. And so we're having to look really strategically at how we steward taxpayer dollars, but also make strategic investments into the park system. So our focus over the last couple of years has been obviously improving the athletic facilities. We've added lights, we've added fences, and the whole goal of that is just to get those fields better. It's hard to manage and maintain turf when you've got cars driving on them and people with their dogs. And we've kind of shifted from athletics into a lot of public safety. So council recently approved lighting projects. So we're working on John Stiff Park right now. Once that project's done, we're going to shift to Thompson, and then we're going to shift to Memorial. We've done a few parks in the past, whether it's Sam Houston, San Jacinto. And so we want to continue to improve those parks so that people can use them, beyond dawn and dusk. And so, it's always a balancing act. I mean, everybody wants amazing things in our parks, and we do too. But we also have to balance that with what the budgets are and what those asset needs are as we try to figure out what do we replace, what do we remove, how do we make this sustainable moving forward?
Yeah, and I think it's tough because, when you say aging assets, that's like people's neighborhood parks and people's, their own infrastructure and investment in like their neighborhoods. And so I think it can become deeply personal, as it should. But you guys are looking across a budget and, future planning and doing all of this. And, if somebody closes something, even if it makes a lot of sense on paper, that's something that has been closed. How do you think about and navigate that?
Yeah, I mean, obviously no director wants to close stuff, and no director wants to go in and scale stuff back. But I think we also have to be kind of aware of where we currently are. I mean, you have to assess the situation. We want to be good stewards of the taxpayer dollars. We know that there's limited resources, and so we want to put the money where it's best spent and best realized and recognized by the community. I think that's why we focused on, we've had to put in parking lots recently. We're actually working on that because we were getting a lot of complaints about, well, I go to an athletic event and my car's getting towed, or I can't find a place to park. So we've added some ADA parking lots at John Stiff. We're in the process of adding 2 more parking lots. So a lot of it is driven by what the community is telling us of the challenges that they face. And we balance that obviously with the public safety piece and with the available funding and try to figure out what is the best solution for the community. So again, if we want to hear from the community, because we don't want to isolate it ourselves, and we don't want to make assumptions based off what the community wants or needs. But I think we also have to be realistic about where we are funding wise and what those conditions of those assets are.
Where do you hope to see your department in 10 years?
I think my goal would be for us to continue to improve and just to continue to innovate. I don't like being stagnant. I don't like doing the same things over and over. I want to be looking at where the community wants and needs us to go. I like to think 10, 15, 20 years down the road, because in the reality is when you work for a city, a project generally will take 5 years. So by the time you start it, by the time you come up with an idea, by the time you work through the design, the construction, I mean, you're looking at 3 to 5 years, generally speaking. And so we want to be looking far enough down the road where we're strategic, where we anticipate needs. We may not anticipate all of them, but as the community grows, as we look for new offerings and new opportunities, trying to figure out where to strategically place those. So we always want to be looking down the road, and I don't want to be a department that just gets used to doing the same old, same old. We want to be continuing to hear from our community and doing programs that are engaging, but also build community and kind of build that support.
How do you think Amarillo stacks up to other like cities our size in your areas? Yeah.
I think in terms of parks, we've got a lot of park space, but a lot of it's undeveloped. So we've got, I think, almost 2,500 acres of park space. Some of that's the area around McDonald Lake. Some of it's the area over at Rick Klein. So there's a large portion of areas that are just undeveloped, in a natural state. I think in some cases we may have more assets for our smaller parks than what most cities would do. I think, putting splash pads and restrooms and all of those types of amenities in a neighborhood park, I think is a little atypical. I think generally when you look at a neighborhood park, you're looking at playgrounds, walking trails, some benches, some trees, some landscape where people can go throw a football, go play catch, but they're typically not intensive on the asset side. So generally those types of things, the splash pads, those bigger assets are going to be your community parks or your regional parks. And when I talk about community and regional, those are your parks like Sam Houston, Elwood, John Stiff, Thompson, those bigger parks, Martin Road. And so we want to make sure that we're right sizing the parks based off of where they're located. And we want to be excellent. So we want to, in some cases, scale back the assets so we can put bigger, better assets somewhere else. And so it's always a tug of war, trying to figure out what works best for our community and how do we manage it moving forward. Again, we're stewards of the taxpayers' dollars, so we need to be hearing from them as to what those priorities are.
Yeah. Man, the bathrooms. I had no idea how much of a challenge public bathrooms are until I started kind of getting a little bit of an understanding of what your amazing staff has to deal with. Can you talk a little bit about this bathroom situation?
Yeah, so obviously bathrooms are a challenge. I mean, not only from the cleaning standpoint, but I think from our department standpoint, I think the biggest thing is safety. We want to make sure that when somebody goes to the park that it's a safe environment. And if some of those restrooms are creating an unsafe environment, then that's obviously something we need to look at. We face a variety of challenges our staff do on a daily basis when it comes to those restrooms. But again, at the end of the day, it comes down to safety of the community, safety of the public. As they use those spaces, we don't want any unwanted surprises or any safety concerns for people using those spaces.
And that happens. I'll tell you, I was doing a park cleanup at Elwood, months ago. And, it's a bathroom, but it's also a publicly available room that can lock with, that has a door that locks on it. And that was the situation. There was a person using drugs in this bathroom. And you think about, if I take my kids to the park and they need to use the restroom, and, it's just things that you don't think about until you experience them. And then you certainly don't think about whose problem that is to solve. And it's you guys, and it's the council, and it's, the cost of upkeep and the cost of repairing when people strip the pipes out and all the stuff, Yeah,
I mean, it's a time-consuming process from the cleaning standpoint, from the maintenance standpoint. But I think what most people don't recognize is the cost of replacing restrooms. I think most people see those restrooms and they're like, oh, that's an easy fix. That's a fairly insignificant amount to replace. But as we've started getting quotes on those projects and replacing a restroom, you're looking at probably $250,000. So about $250,000 to replace basically a cinder block wall. And we've had local contractors bid it. We've had precast manufacturers bid it or give us prices on it, and they all come out about that same amount because we have to design it for the worst wear and tear possible. It's not a residential home. It's not, wood construction, because we have people that try to light fires in there. We have people that try to break them, vandalize them, do all sorts of stuff. And so they're not just your standard structure. And so again, when you start talking about Thompson, I'll give Thompson as an example, there's 9 restrooms in Thompson.
Jeez.
So you start doing the math on if it's $250,000 per restroom, that adds up very quickly.
For sure.
We want to make sure that where we do have restrooms, we do provide a good quality product. But again, that's a challenge when people use our spaces and we know they use our spaces well. So
yeah. What are you most proud of in your department?
I think the biggest thing that I'm proud of is just the overall change in direction for our department. I mean, I think, as a department, we've tried to tell our story a little bit better, communicate what we actually offer to the public. I think we've hired some great people that have brought some really amazing programs, some really great activities. But I also can't overlook our park maintenance team. They put in a significant amount of work. They get a lot of the complaints. They don't get a lot of praise.
It is definitely one of those jobs, man.
It is. And so whether they're out picking up trash in a park or cleaning restrooms or mowing the parks, it's a very thankless job a lot of times. And so just very proud of that team and what they continue to do as we try to improve athletic facilities and just parks as a whole. So I think just the overall, just continuing to innovate, look at how we can do things differently and steward those dollars very well.
Yeah. I think it's easy for me to take my kids to Medi Park and go like, this is a great park. The playground there, like the handicap inclusive, is that the right term?
Yeah, that's right.
Is such a cool playground. And I can't imagine there's anyone that lives in Amarillo that hasn't been to Medi Park. But if there is, it's just the coolest. And so it's easy to go sit on, a beautiful spring or fall is coming, fall day, and appreciate the facility without being aware of like what it takes to have it. Yeah. Both in you guys maintenance staff, in investment from council to keep it up, in just the care to have it in the first place, that these things don't happen and are certainly not maintained by accident.
Well, and I'll give one example. Again, we talk about how our community uses our parks and loves our parks. After Easter, it's not uncommon for our park maintenance staff to pick up over 400 bags of trash just at Thompson Park, let alone other parks in the neighborhood or in the network. So, that's a lot of use in those spaces. And so, again, that's the stuff that people don't see. They don't see us going out after those big holidays, cleaning up after the community and making sure that those spaces continue to look good.
Man. Pick up your own trash. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate your work.
Well, thank you. So one of the other really cool projects that we've got going on right now is a partnership with community development. We're actually building a playground at Thompson that's also an inclusive playground like the one you just mentioned at John Ward Park / Medi Park.
That's right. I forgot that we renamed it.
Yeah, new name change.
That's going to be so hard.
Yeah, but
so this is up at Thompson. So up on the north side. Awesome.
Thompson. It's right there where the old pool used to be. It's got a zoo theme. It's going to be inclusive. We expect that to be complete probably early to mid-October. They're just going out there, putting the final touches on, doing the port-in-place surfacing, and then that'll be open to the community. So again, we see a lot of activity at Thompson at the end of the school year with people going on field trips to the zoo, Wonderland, and then also this new playground I think will be a huge asset to the community. If you have a chance, drive by. It is amazing.
That's so cool. I was just thinking about those accessible parks, and obviously such a beautiful thing to do for families that need to utilize those like specialty playground equipment. Mm-hmm. But I also think it's really cool to normalize for children that may not necessarily need that. That like, yeah, cool, it's really neat that this is in Braille. Yes, it's really cool that this is a wider swing, that it's just, that I think it provides a really cool service even to, like beyond maybe what you would assume, and like, oh, awesome, this person can utilize this in a way that they may not previously have been able to.
Well, and I think one of the things that most people don't recognize is at some point we have our own disabilities. So whether you break your foot, or it's a grandparent that's taking a child or a grandchild to the playground, maybe they don't have the ability to walk through some of that surfacing. So, a lot of times we think about the end user being the child, But we've also got caregivers, we've also got grandparents, we've got other people that are using that space where maybe that access is a challenge for them. Maybe they can't run their walker through there or their wheelchair. So looking at whether it's the playgrounds, we've also recently we put in a fishing dock at Medi Park, John Ward Park, that is accessible so people can go fish, they can roll their wheelchair out there, they can have the same experiences as other fishermen. And so, we're always looking at that. As we do projects, we go in and try to make sure that if we go in and do a project that the concrete is good, that the restrooms are accessible, we want to make sure that we're providing that, not just for, again, the child, but all the different users that may be using that space, whether it's, again, grandparents and other caregivers. So I can't remember the stat, and I would be wrong if I said it, but I've heard everything from 30% of us at some point will face some sort of disability, whether it's using crutches or a permanent disability. So again, we want to keep that in mind as we design park spaces, parking lots, making sure people can get access to those spaces.
If you're starting or growing a small business and need some cash, let me tell you about Amarillo Venture Capital. They are a Hey Amarillo sponsor. They're locally owned, and what makes them different is they don't just invest in businesses. They invest in people. Whether you need $5,000 or $50,000, they offer flexible, asset-based loans, often with funding in a week or less. And it's not just the money. They can connect you with their local network of legal, accounting, and business resources to help you succeed. Check them out at amarilloventurecapital.com. All right, I'm back with Michael Kashuba. Michael, this is the part of the show we call 8 Straight. You ready for him?
Let's go.
Okay. When you think of Amarillo 10 years from now, what do you hope for?
I think when I look at it, I like to think down the road, and I think for me, it's a coordinated vision of the community. There's so much potential with all of these projects that are starting to happen around here. There's a lot of synergies. Mm-hmm. I think starting to look far enough in advance where we can anticipate what the community may want or need and start driving a vision in that direction. So, as we add these projects, not just thinking of them in separate projects or silos, but really looking at the big picture and how all of these pieces fit together.
Yeah, for sure. Other than wind, what does this area have too much of?
I mentioned it earlier, and there's a pro and a con, but all of the orange cones. I think, obviously it's a temporary inconvenience, but I think long term it will help with the movement of traffic and projects through the community.
Yeah. Are you allowed to say that as a city employee?
Of course.
We'll find out when this releases. What does this area not have enough of?
My daughter played competitive soccer, and we would have to travel to Albuquerque, to Oklahoma City, to Dallas. I think the thing that we don't have are those facilities that will draw people and keep people here, whether it's, athletic activities, other big amenities that draw people here.
Yeah.
I think for our standpoint, those are great amenities, not only to keep people from having to travel, but it also generates a lot of sales tax. So trying to figure out ways that we can bring more revenue into the community so that we can continue to make improvements through our infrastructure.
What's your favorite local building?
I like a lot of the old historical buildings. So as a landscape architect, we did a lot of stuff with architecture. I like the Santa Fe, obviously it's the most recognizable, the Fisk building. I like a lot of the detailed architecture along Polk Street. But it's not a building, but the Sanborn Fountain is really cool to me. It tells the story of Amarillo around the outside of it. There's been some damage to it over the years, but it's a really cool piece of architecture, even though it's not the scale of a building. But again, it really helps tell the story of Amarillo.
Now, where is this?
Sanborn Park,
just up here by the church.
There's along the edge of that. There's a lot of I don't know if you want to call it a pictograph, but it's a visual story of Amarillo.
Very nice. Okay, I'll have to take a walk. Cool. Thank you. What's your favorite local restaurant?
I love burgers, so Blue Sky is my go-to.
Very good. How do you describe Amarillo to people outside the area, like your Canadians?
Yeah, it's an unkept or an unknown gem. I mean, there's a lot of things that people don't realize when they drive through. I think when we first moved here, we had a lot of people stopping on the way to Denver or to Colorado for different things. And they were always surprised when they would get off the main roads and see what Amarillo had to offer. It's family friendly. The scale of it is perfect for families. And so I think it is a pleasant surprise for a lot of people as they get off that main road.
Yeah, I agree. What's the most underrated aspect of living here?
I think 4 seasons. You don't usually get that in Texas, and so the ability to go sit out on your porch in the summer and cool off in the evenings. There was nothing worse than when I started working on golf courses and you wake up at 5 a.m. and it's already 90 degrees.
Yeah.
So the ability for it to cool off, the seasons, it's just a nice change of pace.
And you had that in British Columbia, huh? You said it got hot like that.
Yeah, we got some great summers. We got some cooler winters, but really enjoyed the 4 seasons. So that's something that I really enjoyed here is you get to experience it all, whether it's a little bit of snow, whether it's the winds in the fall and the spring, or just the nice summer temperatures.
Yeah, I agree. When was the last time you went to Paladero Canyon?
Within the last couple of weeks.
Wonderful.
Yeah, we spent a lot of time in the canyon.
I've had a hard time catching them this summer because of all the rain. Yeah. Which is a good reason not to be able to get out there.
Yeah, we'll take the rain any day.
For sure. Okay, Michael, that concludes 8 Straight. I like to wrap up my episodes by asking my guests to endorse something. Anything at all, if the listener has not heard of, experienced, gone to, whatever. What would you have them give a try? Endorsement.
Amarillo Parks and Rec.
There it is.
I would say, again, I think not everybody's familiar with what we have to offer. So I would say get on our Facebook page, go to our website, and again, reach out. If there's a program that you're interested in that you've seen other places that maybe we haven't brought yet to Amarillo, let us know. We're always looking at new opportunities. So again, I would say take a look at what we have to offer. I think the other thing is we've been able to do some of this stuff obviously through the Sport Council, but we've also got some great partners that have come alongside us. Whether it's Outdoor Amarillo, a recently formed 501c3 to help kind of support parks, Six Pack Outdoors that help build some of our mountain bike trails, the Alex O'Brien Tennis Foundation that's helped with some of the improvements over there. And we've also got volunteer groups like Elevate Amarillo and other groups that go around and actually help volunteer and take the time to make those park spaces great. So obviously we do our best, but we also are very appreciative of all those partners that have come alongside and recognize the value of the parks in this community.
Yeah, when you set them up against each other like that, that's a lot of support for a town our size.
Yeah, and again, they all fill a little bit different niche. So, again, we've enjoyed this, and some of these projects that we've been able to accomplish, whether it's the mountain bike trails that we've been able to work through Six Pack, whether it's the new paddle courts. If you don't know what paddle is, I would go to the tennis center and check it out. Again, that's a great partnership with the Alex O'Brien Foundation. Those courts are not. We haven't done the ribbon cutting yet, but they are open to the public to start playing. So really cool, real new project for us.
It is neat. Before I let you go, because I do know that you mean it when you say that your department really wants to hear back from the community, what is the best way? Like if someone has, goodness knows they'll have complaints, but like, a suggestion or a thought or feedback or, God forbid, a thank you or a compliment. What is the best way for you guys to really receive feedback from your constituents?
Yeah, so obviously people can always leave a comment on Facebook.
And they do.
And we see a lot of comments. You can always call our main line, which is 806-378-3036.
Cool.
Yeah, the email address is contact@amarilloparks.org.
Awesome. Michael, thank you so much for your time and your work making Amarillo more accessible, more beautiful, and all of us able to have a little bit more time outdoors.
Well, thank you.
I'm so excited about the upcoming Amarillo Symphony season. The Symphony's kicking things off with movie Music Under the Stars at Hodgetown on September 6th, followed by a Highland Fling with a live bagpiper and Tchaikovsky's famous piano concerto as their first concert in the Globe News Center. The season continues with the stunning power of Berlioz's Symphonie Fantastique, the cosmic journey of Holst's The Planets, and Amarillo's beloved Happy Holiday Pops concerts. The Amarillo Symphony provides an exciting concert experience whether you're going for a date night or celebrating the holidays with your friends and family. With concerts running September to April, you don't have to miss a single note. Visit amarillosymphony.org for tickets and more. That concludes the episode. Thanks to Michael Kashuba for the interview. For more information about our city's Parks and Rec department, visit their Facebook page. Thanks to Venture Capital and the Amarillo Symphony for supporting this podcast, and to Angelina Marie for editing every week. And she gave this one a little bit of extra love, so a little bit of an extra thanks to her. If you're interested in supporting the podcast, visit heyamarillo.com. Thanks for listening. This has been episode 414 of Hey Amarillo. My name's Skylar Gallup, and I'll see you next week.